So the classic P2 or the new kid on the block? What's different? How do they compare? Should you be worried coming from a classic P2? Or is this thing going to be your new go-to putter? Let's find out. What's up guys, I'm David with Apollo Disc Golf, and today we're gonna take a look at the new Discmania P2. So starting off, let's take a look at how it feels. So when I first got a hold of this, it feels actually pretty similar to a P2. It's not actually until you hold them side by side, you can actually see the difference. Or if you look at the profile here, the classic P2 is actually slightly shallower than the new prototype Discmania P2. You can also see that the shoulder actually sits a little bit higher, and because of that, it fills your hand more. So when you hold it in a putting grip, it's actually really hard to notice. They feel pretty similar, but it's when you power grip it, that's when you'll start feeling the difference. It actually fills your hand a little bit more. It feels a little bit deeper. Feel-wise, the plastic, it feels pretty good. It feels pretty tacky, grippy. This feels close to the Trilogy plastic, so the Latitude 64 plastic, but it's almost a little bit more tacky. I haven't really felt a disc that's this tacky right out of the box. Usually they're a little slick, but this plastic feels really nice. And it seems pretty durable so far. I may or may not have thrown it into a tree. But yeah, even when I did that, it didn't show a whole lot of wear. It just shows like a little bit of scuff mark, but there's actually no like structural damage to the disc at all. And the flight, it still flies exactly the same. I am interested to see how this plastic will break in. So now that we got the basics covered, let's talk about how this flies. So for those worried about the flight of this disc and seeing if it's gonna compare to your classic P2s, there's really nothing to worry about because this thing is very stable. If you throw this flat, this thing is just gonna fly dead straight and then it's gonna hook at the end. This one flies similar to some of the old S lines that I had. This can even handle a lot of power when you throw it flat and straight. This is really only gonna turn if you don't have clean form. Like if you throw it clean and with a lot of power, this thing is just gonna fly dead straight and it's not gonna turn for you at all. If you throw it with a hyzer, it's just gonna hold that hyzer the whole line. It's not really gonna pop up at all. Again, if your form's a little shaky throwing putters, which mine is sometimes, it might pop up straight a little bit, but if you throw it clean, this thing's hyzering the whole way. This will be great in the winds, and even when you throw it on an anhyzer, these things always came out. I tried to force an ante on it, and it just like, it held the ante for a little bit, but it always wanted to fight out. This thing is really, really stable, and you guys are gonna love it. So comparing this disc to the classic P2, the classic is pretty much flies this similar, but it's always just gonna be a little less stable than this new P2, at least the one that I have. I have one of the newer, and this is one of the later P2s, and this one's still pretty fresh. This is one of my backups. I didn't throw it a whole lot, and so this is pretty representative of what the P-line P2s were right out of the box. This is still very stable, but it's not quite as overstable as the prototypes. So it pretty much flies exactly like the classic P2, just a little bit more stability, at least compared to one of the later runs of P2s. Now, what about the putting for this thing? So the first thing about putting, finding your go-to putter is really a matter of like how it feels in your hand. So it's different for everybody. In terms of how it feels in your hand, it feels, again, very similar to the old P2. It feels a little bit bigger in your hand though. If the old P2 felt a little too deep for you, or if it was on the edge, this isn't gonna be a whole lot better for you. But if you liked the feel of the old P2, this one's gonna feel very similar. But yeah, if you do have those smaller hands and you find that you have a hard time getting a clean release on the disc, you might want to try something a little shallower. So like the Logic or the Sensei from Discmania, those are pretty similar, but they're a little bit shallower. So if you have smaller hands, you might find that you will be able to get a cleaner release with those discs. But in terms of putting with this, I would say it's a lot similar to what I found with the old P2s. They're very good inside the circle. Once you get to the edge of the circle though, that stability really affects your putts. But I usually push putt, and that's for push putt. For spin putters, this disc is great for spin putters. That's why Simon and Eagle love these so much. They're some of the best spin putters in the game. And then for putting in the wind, like this is honestly one of the best putters you can have for putting in the wind because of its stability. As long as you putt clean with it and have a clean release, like this thing should putt really well in just about any winds. All right, before we get into my final thoughts and recommendations, we'd love to hear your feedback. If you liked the video, hit that like button down below. And if you have one of these P2s or have thrown it, what did you think? Do you agree with us? Did you have the same findings as we did, or did you have something different? Let us know. We can discuss it in the comments. Now on to my final thoughts and recommendations. So one thing I loved about the P2 when I threw it was its stability and how you can cover basically all the shots you ever need with one putter mold. You can just have a few of these beaten up in different stages of wear and just have a straight one, an understable one, and even have a premium plastic one for your overstable shots. And that's all that you ever needed. And this thing, honestly, will be able to do the exact same thing. It should cover just about every shot you'll ever need with your putter. It's just great. If you loved the old P2, this thing will be amazing. But other than that, for throwing, this disc is great. For putting, this disc is great. It all depends on your personal preference and how you like the feel of that. Some people like deeper putters, some people don't. Some people like a bead, some people don't. It's all personal preference. But this, in terms of flight, this thing is great. You're gonna love it. And for those people that loved the old P2s, don't worry, this thing is an amazing disc. And that's gonna do it for this review and comparison of the new P2 versus the old P2. So thank you so much for watching. Again, let us know how you think about this video by liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we will see you in the next one.